Thank you so much for that, Jackie. Yeah, Junmei's not feeling so well today, so she didn't come in. So it's nice to see some of my hula students here today. So of course, we're going to be dancing at the end of this talk about the spiritual path. That's what this talk is about. So it's a nice parallel of Hawaiian tradition and Zen tradition, Hawaiian hula tradition. So, all right. Well, I have been sitting with and studying the 10 ox herding pictures for the last couple of weeks. And I was laughing with Julie because, I thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be easy. I'll talk about the 10 ox herding pictures. And as I got into it, it was, wow, this is like, poetry and philosophy, and it's really kind of complex. And so, you gotta sit into it a while. And there's 10 pictures, and there's 10 small poems that go along with the pictures. So I'm going to give you an introduction, and I know we're not going to cover all of the 10 pictures today, but so these 10 ox herding pictures were, well, the best known version was by a 12th century Chinese Rinzai teacher, Zen master, known as Kakuan Shiyan in Japanese, his name, or Quan Shi Wan. And this was in 1100 to 1200 CE. So these pictures, when they came out, had a very extensive effect on Chinese Zen. And in the West, they became widely known thanks to a book that Paul Reps and Nyogen Senzaki put together called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, a collection of Zen and pre-Zen writings by Paul Reps and Nyogen Senzaki Sensei. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Paul Reps and Nyogen Senzaki. Nyogen Senzaki, Nyogen, that name, his name means like a dream, like a fantasy. And he was inspired to become a Zen priest when he heard the story about Tokusan. This was like when he was about 18. Tokusan burning up all of his Diamond Sutra commentary. I know Mark told the story, but I really love this story. Tokusan is the scholar from the northern school of Chan, right? And he knows all about the Diamond Sutra, and he's written commentaries. And that school is the gradual school of enlightenment. So there's two schools of philosophy practice in Zen, and one is the gradual school for enlightenment, and the other one is the sudden school. The South China was the sudden school to enlightenment. So Tokusan you know, he knew you had to sit a long time. There was a whole process, and the 10 ox herding pictures talk about this process, that, you know, it takes time, it's gradual, it is not sudden. So he was on his way down to the southern school to give him a piece of his mind, right? Give them a piece of his mind. Well, so on the way, he meets this old woman by the side of the road selling rice cakes. And he thinks, oh, I'm going to stop and buy some rice cakes, right? So he stops, and the old woman says, what's that in your bags? They're so full. And he says, oh, I'm a scholar on the Diamond Sutra, and all of these are my commentaries about the Diamond Sutra. And she said, oh, according to the Diamond Sutra, past mind is ungraspable, present mind is ungraspable, future mind is ungraspable. With which mind will you eat this rice cake? If you tell me the answer, I will let you buy a rice cake. And Tokusan is like totally stunned. He cannot answer the question. So he's really upset because he's a scholar on the Diamond Sutra and he can't answer this question. So it's said that later he burns up all of his commentaries on the Diamond Sutra. Anyway, this inspired Nyogen Senzaki to become a Buddhist priest. And this was about late 1800s. And Japan at that time was becoming very nationalistic. And so things were starting to be very in a box like. And Nyogen Sensei was not happy about this. He was studying Zen with a teacher, Shoen Shaku. Anyway, Shaku was invited to San Francisco, I think by D.T. Suzuki in 1901 to teach Zen. And so he invited the young Nyogen to accompany him as his assistant. So when they got there, Shoen Shaku gave his talks, and then when they were done, when they're about to leave, he told Nyogen, you don't have to go back to Japan. You can do whatever you want. You know, this is the end of, you know, our relationship. I mean, you know, you don't have to follow me back to Japan if you don't want to. And so Nyogen stayed in San Francisco, and he had odd jobs, and finally he established like this floating Dharma zendo where he taught Zen. And then World War II happened in the 40s, 39, and he was rounded up along with other Japanese and Japanese Americans to the concentration camps. He went to Heart Mountain, which is where my family, about 15 of them who were living in Los Angeles at the time, also went to Heart Mountain. And, you know, young as 4 years old, my cousin, right, was there. And I think, I wonder if they knew each other then, I don't know. But then Nyogen Senzaki came back to Los Angeles and started his floating Dharma zendo there. And that's where Maizumi Roshi met him. And he had a great impact on Maizumi Roshi, who is our founder of the White Plum. And Roshi, Joshin Roshi tells us that Maizumi Roshi, after Senzaki Roshi died, would visit his grave every year on his death anniversary. And Eiken Roshi, who some of you know, He's written wonderful books, The Mind of Clover, that we use in our precept study. He's also written commentary on the Mumonkan, which is the gateless gate, 48 koans that we study. And he was based in Hawaii. So he was Eiken Roshi's teacher, who Joshin Roshi also studied a little bit with in Hawaii, because he was based on Hawaii Island. So I thought that was interesting. And then I read about Paul Reps, because Paul Reps is an interesting fellow also. He was an artist, an American artist, a poet, and author, and he was born in Cedar City, Iowa. He later moved to Maui. He was also known as a Zen master. I'm not sure who his teachers were, but he is best known for his unorthodox haiku. So he went to Japan. He was well known, actually, in Japan for his art and his haiku. And there's this great story about Paul Reps. He was in Waimea. I remember when we first moved there in 1988, I had heard, oh, you got to meet Paul Reps. He's a Zen master. And unfortunately, I did not. And he died in 1991. But anyway, he was very well regarded in Japan, and when his 2-month visa expired, he applied for a 1-year commercial visa with the Japanese consulate. And they said, oh, it's gonna take a month, no exceptions, it's gonna take a month. And the story goes, he returned 3 days later with his needed papers and agreed to wait the month. But he also included a poem. And this is the poem. Drinking a bowl of green tea, I stop the war. The visa officer told him to return the next day, and he got his clearance to go. And he said, see what a poem can do for you? Isn't that a fabulous poem? Drinking a bowl of green tea, I stop the war. Beautiful. I'm sorry I did not get to meet Paul Reps. And somebody asked him once, what kind of Zen do you practice? And he said, Reps Zen. So they did a translation of this Chinese poetry, which I really also enjoyed. I was studying another translation by Kaz Tanahashi, who's still alive, and John Daido-Lori, who used to be the abbot of the Zen Mountain Monastery in Mount Tremper. There's a great book, it's called Riding the Ox Home, and that's why I use that as my title. I was enjoying it so much, his commentary. And then I read this other one. So the other thing I found was this cute little 7-minute YouTube video that I wanted to share, actually, because they show these pictures which Kakuan, famous, what's his name, Kakuan Shien actually drew. Well, another artist drew for the Zen Mountain Monastery 10 sets of these pictures in the Chinese Nanga style and presented it as a gift to the monastery. And I see a lot of actually usage of those pictures. And so I wanted to show them with the poetry translated by Nyogen Senzaki and Paul Reps. So I'm going to share that. If you want to just look here, I'm going to share it. I think it's going to work. Let's see. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, here it is. See if you, hopefully you can hear this okay.
In search of the ox. In the pasture of the world, I endlessly push aside the tall grasses in search of the ox. Following unnamed rivers, lost upon the interpenetrating paths of distant mountains, my strength failing and my vitality exhausted, I cannot find the ox. Discovery of the footprints. Along the riverbank under the trees, I discover footprints. Even under the fragrant grass, I see his prints. Deep in remote mountains they are found. These traces can no more be hidden than one's nose, looking heavenward. Perceiving the ox. I hear the song of the nightingale. The sun is warm, the wind is mild, willows are green along the shore, here no ox can hide. What artist can draw that massive head, those majestic horns? Catching the ox. I seize him with a terrific struggle. His great will and power are inexhaustible. He charges to the high plateau far above the cloud mists, or in an impenetrable ravine he stands. Taming the ox. The whip and rope are necessary, else he might stray off down some dusty road. Being well trained, he becomes naturally gentle. Then, unfettered, he obeys his master. Riding the ox home. Mounting the ox, slowly I return homeward. The voice of my flute intones through the evening. Measuring with hand beats the pulsating harmony, I direct the endless rhythm. Whoever hears this melody will join me. The ox transcended. Astride the ox, I reach home. I am serene. The ox too can rest. The dawn has come. In blissful repose, within my thatched dwelling, I have abandoned the whip and ropes. Both ox and self transcended. Whip, rope, person, and ox all merge in no thing. This heaven is so vast, no message can stain it. How may a snowflake exist in a raging fire? Here are the footprints of the ancestors. reaching the source. Too many steps have been taken returning to the root and the source. Better to have been blind and deaf from the beginning, dwelling in one's true abode, unconcerned with and without. The river flows tranquilly on and the flowers are red. Return to society. Barefooted and naked of breast, I mingle with the people of the world. My clothes are ragged and dust-laden, and I am ever blissful. I use no magic to extend my life. Now, before me, the dead trees become alive.
Okay. So these 10 ox herding pictures are like the trajectory of a spiritual path, but the spiritual path is not like this ladder, that you're climbing. It's more like a spiral. You can be in any of the stages at any time. So it's different than Western thought, right, of how we progress, because you can easily come back to the first one of confusion. Ox. It's interesting, what is the ox, right? What is the ox? Could be, and is probably mind. Mind, where is my mind? It is so confused right now. There's so many distractions filling my mind. Where is it? That's the first stage, actually. But there's some dissatisfaction with that, right? You start asking these questions, what is my life about, right? What is death? These deep questions that are spiritual questions. And you start to say, I think maybe meditation can help me. It's the first stage. And so you just start, sitting. You're not totally sure what you're doing, but you're just there and trying to follow some instructions. And I've heard some really great instructions recently. Fleet Mall has a great Art of Meditation series on right now. And he interviews Joseph Goldstein, who's a wonderful Theravadan teacher. He brought insight meditation along with Sharon Salzberg and Jack Kornfield and started the Insight Meditation Center. And this has really kind of transformed even my own practice. Breath, right? How we say the breath is so important to focus on. And people say, oh yeah, but I don't know, I just get bored following my breath. And it's like, but if you don't have your breath, you have no life, you're gonna die. And so do you think you can be maybe a little aware of the preciousness of your breath, right? And the beautiful thing Joseph Goldstein shared was, yes, we say the breath is a great thing to focus on, but it's not a breathing exercise. It's an awareness exercise, which kind of changed it for me. It's an awareness exercise. So, and the way we teach it here from the inside out is right on. Because what you're doing is, if it's an awareness exercise, you're not trying to change the way you breathe when you're sitting. You're just noticing, where is your breath? maybe where is the deepest part of my body that the breath is inhabiting, and just kind of being there and noticing, because it is paying attention, right? And bringing the mind back. That's your beautiful anchor to just keep coming back to. And noticing your thoughts again, and judgment, right? Letting it go, letting it go. This whole first stage is about letting all the stuff you notice that you're doing go. Let it go. It's a beautiful thing. And then as you're practicing this, then you start to notice, wow, you're starting going on to the second stage here, right? Wow, maybe I can really do something about all of these habits that I'm noticing I have, right? Conditioning. Conditioning is, for whatever reason, we were born and we learned a whole bunch of conditioning all our lives that have become habits. And so, to change a habit is not easy. It takes patience and perseverance to do that. But what a wonderful thing to practice, actually. Every time you do it, it can be hard, all right, that's okay, but it can also get easier, like anything you practice. And why are you doing this? I mean, is this just a self-help project? It kind of is. But the other thing that is really clarifying is that you're not missing your life if you can pay attention. You can awaken to not only your life, but the great interconnection of all. You can get glimpses of it. That's these different pictures. You get a glimpse. There's the ox. You can see the backside of the ox. You can't totally see the whole ox. It just takes a little time for clarity and to know that this self that we protect so much, that just takes too much energy that can be redirected somewhere else. So that, the reason is, we want to become skillful so we can help others, right? That's the idea. This is not just for ourselves. We want to help others. So the clearer we can be that we see this unity of all, then that just spreads that energy. Others want to hear that music that you are playing as you sit on the ox returning home. And skillful means, I just want to say a little bit about skillful means. So the Zen Peacemakers International had a really fun and informative panel discussion this past Monday. 4 couples, all Roshis in the Zen Peacemaker Order, came together to talk about commitment and peacemaking. That was really good, right? These long-time practitioners, right? We have to be able to actualize our realization, walk our talk. And then, of course, sometimes, it just doesn't happen. But anyway, there was a great question. What advice would you give a young couple, or it could be an older couple, in a committed relationship and also both committed to practice? Is that a good question? What kind of advice? So Nikkoli Roshi, who is Joshin Roshi's teacher, she's also a therapist and she's on the verge of retiring there. She had prepared a list, which is fabulous, that I want to share with you. This is some skillful means here on committed relationships. First of all, this is the starting point. Be mindful when you're caught in looking good and being right. Just be mindful of that time. If you ever have been in it, of trying to look good, like giving a good talk, and being right, whenever you're caught there, just be mindful. Just be mindful of what's going on here. And then it's helpful to follow these precepts. You know, in Zen, we study the precepts. Zen students study the precepts. It's a guide of how you live your life, how you actualize your realization. So the first precept that's a really great one is, I vow to see the perfection and not talk about others' errors and faults. That's such a great one, right? Because that's what the ego wants to do. It wants to be right. And it's going to put down anybody who does not agree with number one, right? I vow to see the perfection and not talk about others' errors and faults. This number 7 precept is, I vow to realize self and others as one and not elevate myself and blame others. It's a compliment, right? Right, we're one. There's no other. So how can you blame anybody? Number 8, I vow to be generous in giving and not be withholding. Generosity is a whole nother area, generosity of spirit, right? Not just, it's in, I think it's in deep respect of the other, as you, a deep respect of you. So this is about practicing being respectful and curious about your differences. Curious, so interesting, right? It's so interesting you think that way. And see each other with fresh eyes. Both of you are unique and equal. See each other with fresh eyes. You know, that's not easy to do. But the practice, I think, helps you in that beginner's mind, right? That beginner's mind. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are a few. Create time to have fun and shared experiences outside of Zen. I think that's important. Like, you know, we had a great vacation, you know, where we don't think about Zen so much. And then learn good communication skills. These are some basics like nonviolent communication. That's such a great one where you're really understanding what you're needing. And that's a big one because a lot of us think we shouldn't need anything. That's what we were raised on, right? But we have some basic needs, respect being one of them. And then she named a couple other that I'm not familiar with, but therapists might. Imago dialogue, and also Hedy Schleifer's Crossing the Bridge. I don't know those two, but those are great, I think, to learn some skills. And she says, you know, if she should ever, and she does, she says, get really mad and flooded, she says, I'm going out for a 20-minute walk. We can get back to this later. So that gives you the time to to get not flooded again. So such great, now this is skillful, this is putting your practice into action. And what the cool thing is, you need these situations to practice, even though you might think, oh no. So I think I could entertain a few questions now, and then I have some hula students here, and I wanted to dance. We've danced this before about Kaiona, the goddess of the lost, who is deaf and blind, but who can hear when you need help. And it's about how to find the path. So any questions about the 10? I didn't really go into, there's so much. I really encourage you to read Riding the Ox Home. It's wonderful. It's about the spiritual path. Sometimes it's not easy to sit, but this is the most direct way the Zen Buddhas feel to enlightenment, right? The Buddha did it. After 8 days, he planted himself on the ground under the Bodhi tree. And when he was enlightened, what did he say? He said something really beautiful. He pointed to the ground and said, I and all beings and the earth awaken together, which points to that Buddha nature, that luminous potential that is there in all of us. We just, are kind of distracted that we cannot see it, but it is there. So this practice is wonderful. Yes, Diane. Okay, now Diane, there is right there is the microphone. Yes, and oh yeah, there. Yes, it is on. It's on green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a short comment. Thank you for this. I like the picture where he's on the ox and he's playing the flute. I've seen that picture before and it helps me understand it. Yeah, and I love the video was really beautiful. Just really well constructed, very inspiring. Your talk was very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Gary? Oh, I have to move this. Okay.
Well, June, thank you. And every time I hear you speak, you always, you come with a different perspective, and you always challenge me to think broader than what I normally do. So that's a good thing. Going back earlier to your presentation about the mind, I think you said, what is the mind? And you paused, and then you said something about the mind right now has so much information and things that we're trying to cope with. And way back in my Buddhist teaching or training, and it may have been here, could have been someplace else, but I heard the phrase, develop a not knowing mind. And I try to practice that because I tend to consume a lot of information. I have to read this. It's a peripheral article. I still have to read it. And no, I don't have to read it, but it's hard work. So I thank you for bringing that up today.
Well, the not knowing mind doesn't mean that you don't study and read and all of that, right? But being open is the key here, I think, for not knowing, because once you know, it's hard to hear anybody else. Mm-hmm.
Roshi.
Yes.
Sorry, Roshi, that was a lovely, lovely talk. Thank you so much. I feel like I love the idea of breath as awareness practice and not just an exercise. I think it sort of elevates the importance of breath awareness, that it's not a simplistic practice whatsoever. And I truly love your description of the spiritual path not being linear but spiral. That's so encouraging, because so many times we have 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward, 3 steps backwards. I mean, it really sort of captures the, you know, the all-encompassing intimacy with our life. So thank you, Roshi. Beautiful, beautiful talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariatsu. I wanted to share one more thing that Joseph Goldstein shared in his interview with Fleet Mall. He said to use suffering, don't waste your suffering, is what he said. Don't waste your suffering. Use it as a mindfulness bell to go deeper. And I love that because, right, we just want to push away suffering all the time, things we don't like, things that come up in our life. But can we use it as an aha moment? Whoa, what is really going on here? And to, right, because the spiritual path is about really trying to get to know yourself really well. Not just surface, but digging in past the conditioning, and then letting go, right? Dogen's beautiful quote, what is it? To know the self, to study the Buddha way is to know the self. To know the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be open to the 10,000 things, which means to be able to learn from anything. Every experience, everything. Oh yes, go in.
Hello, everyone. I want to say again, I know you often mention the importance of being aware of the breath, but I've had some therapy recently and I learned that I was breathing incorrectly. I was filling up my chest and I was told I'm supposed to fill up in the stomach area and not the chest. So for that reason, not to take breath for granted and to do not only the mechanical part, but this part that you mentioned as far as meditative reasons for being aware of the breath. Thank you very much for mentioning it again, because it brings it all home for me.
Okay, good, good. Well, yeah, you know, what we practice here is not having to change how you breathe so much, right? You're just being aware.
Reason to pay attention to the breath.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, then maybe it's time for some dancing. All right, so we're going to dance about the goddess of the lost here. And I have 4 students who have been with me quite a while now, at least 5 years, right, who have been practicing. Oh, the other cool thing that Joseph Goldstein said, that walking meditation is really a powerful practice because you are moving your body. And that's an easier kind of segue into your life. That when you're walking, you can just drop into your body, right? So I was thinking, yeah, let's do more walking meditation over here. That would be so awesome. All right, now the students, you have to come up here so that everybody can see you. So you'll have to be here. And I will get the music on. Oh yeah, I'll put this. Yeah. Okay. And let's see here. Okay, are you ready, everybody? Iona, okay, super. Let's see, how can we see everybody there? Okay. Iona is the name of the goddess of the lost who lives on the island of Oahu on the mountain Mount Ka'ala. They're wearing black for frigate birds that are Kaiona's bird form. Awana, wandering astray in the highlands, in the tangling forest deep. Drawn here am I to that fragrance desires, like a bird drawn to the flower. It's all so beautiful, all these distractions, looking here and there. So fickle the ego can be. To me, in sight of Kaiona, the goddess, show me the path, and it's right here, always. Sometimes the way is so clear, and sometimes deep in the valley it's not. Path can be slippery. Such are the challenges of the heart. Like a flower, so fragrant even in the storm. Deep stirrings within. This is my song of the sparkle of the heart. Come to me inside, please. Show me the path. It's right here. Thank you. Okay, any questions about hula, about the path? Anything? Thank you very much. Beautiful job. Yeah, so that comment about walking meditation being such a powerful way to bring the practice into your everyday life just kind of struck a chord in me with hula. So it is a practice, right, of grace, of telling a story, but really being the story instead of separation. At first, we're learning the form, but once it's in our body, we can start to be a little more creative in sharing our emotions. It's a cultivation of love and aloha in one's heart. here, like bodhicitta, right? And so that, hopefully you felt that when they were dancing. And I think that's going to help with peace. All right, then. Really, really enjoyed talking with you all today, and keep going on your beautiful practices. Thank you so much.
Thank you, June.
Thank you, Roshi.
Thank you. Have a great day today.
Thank you, June. Thank you, dancers. Thank you, Roshi June.
Roshi June.
Thank you, June.
So much. And now we have yummies in the community room. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh. It's on the side, on the right-hand side, no, the other side, under the table. And that plant can go on the registration desk.
That was really nice. Very, very nice. Thank you. I've seen those pictures of the oxes. I feel embarrassed, maybe everybody knew that, but yeah, now I understand that.
Also online, you can get 10 rolls. Oh. Rolls here in Chicago.
Yeah, great.
They're really gorgeous.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard to capture that, and I experiment with all these things. It's really weird. They puppet show on deck yesterday. Yeah. The puppets made it not so heavy. And the goddess of the lost. I feel lost. Yes. Yeah. Oh my goddess. Yeah, that was nice. I think it has some. And they're all, they're physically beautiful too. Oh, you got some pictures. Yeah, awesome. I'll have to look at these. Yeah.
You can post also, right?
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, good.
yeah, puppets have to be.
Let's see.
Yeah.
It's so fun to try to capture the feeling. Gary got a better picture. These are.
Oh, beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Gorgeous. That's really cool.
I got to go to Costco. I think there's one of another one. That's
That's a nice one. Yeah.
sunny, the water.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Those are beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.